Hi, I'm Robin Liefeld. Welcome to my studio. I'm an artist in the Chicago area, and I'm so excited to be joining with you and Amanda on this messy and magnificent art retreat. I'm going to be sharing with you a fun project that I do often, and that is handmade bookmarks. I love reading, and I'm always looking for a bookmark. I also give them as gifts, and I have this fun way of making bookmarks out of vintage flashcards. I doodle and I watercolor, I sew and I stamp, and it's a lot of fun and a little addictive. I'm glad you're here, and let's get started on making these bookmarks. Okay, I would like to go over the items needed to make these bookmarks. What the base is going to be are flashcards. These are vintage flashcards that I got at Goodwill or an antique store. You can find them in a lot of different sizes, which is fun. We are going to be using this size. I have some old book paper here. This is recipe book from a military army manual. It's so great. Some of these recipes in here are so fabulous. They're for, to make for 100 people. So it's been fun using these. And I just rip out a page that I will use in there. Then you'll also need some matte medium or some sort of glue to put the paper on your flashcard. I like Tracy Bautista's Collage Page because it doesn't bubble and dries flat, and I like the matte. You could also use gloss medium if you want, depending on the look you want. We're looking also at a glue stick. I'm using some gesso, just a little bit. I have watercolors, stamps, and stamp pads. You can use whatever you have on hand. Marker, pen, a brush. These are some fun stamps, rolling stamps. I'll show you how to use these. Some ribbon, scissors, and a hole punch. I also went to some cardstock that I had, and I made like a very large tag size, and I put those hole protectors from the office supply store. You could use these as well. Okay, let's get started. What we're going to be making are these bookmarks. Here are a bunch of different ones that I've made. These are the ones we will be making today. You could even use playing cards to make a little tiny one. Okay, so I have a sheet of old paper. I love how it's brown on the edges and aged looking. And I've cut it to size to go on my flashcard. And I'm going to put this on here with Collage Page. like this stuff. It's so user-friendly. It's hard to make a mistake with this. And it doesn't soak the paper, which is nice. You know, it doesn't bubble and rip. And it's not smelly at all. Sometimes, like Mod Podge and some others are very smelly, very stinky. Okay, so let's get this on here. And trim it up a little bit. All right, now what I'd like to do is push the printing back a little bit so it's not as obvious. So I'm going to lighten it. I've got some gesso. You can use any gesso, and craft paint would be fine too. Just a little, whoop, rub it on there. See how it pushes everything back very nicely as compared to the original. You don't need a lot. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You want it to look rustic. Okay, then you will, I just eyeball this, put in a hole punch for the ribbon. Okay, and then the next thing will be to pick some sort of saying to put on there. I will probably be using this Bible verse, Psalm 139:14, that I love. Another thing is, this is fun. New beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. That might be good. Or give it to God and go to sleep, which might be good because maybe you're reading right before bed and you're thinking about stuff. So maybe I'll use this one. And I put all kinds of words on here. You could write, certainly. Another fun technique that I do is I cut up pages from books, and you could come up with, you can't take care of me. You could come up with a totally unique saying that is just made from books. Lines, this is a children's book, but you could use an adult's book as well. That's fun. Also, whenever I find or hear a inspirational quote or something that's really makes me think, I write it down for later in a notebook, and then I'll type it up on paper and print it out on my computer, and then that way I already have it all ready to go for when I'm making bookmarks. So let's do this, give it to God and go to sleep. I think that's appropriate for what's happening currently. I'm using Elmer's glue stick. And we'll just put it down to avoid getting lots of fingerprints. I use a little room key or an old credit card or an old gift card. Now at this point I want to draw or doodle on here. So I've got this pen, it's a Pentel RSVP, and I've tested a lot of my pens, and this one doesn't run when it gets wet. So I like this one a lot. So try which pens you have and see if any of them are waterproof. This one is. So I'm going to go ahead and doodle a little heart on here. You know what? This is wet. Let me get one that has dried already. And let's see. Let's make another. This is just freehand. Doodling is so fun and stress reducing. Okay, now I'm going to watercolor in here. I have these beautiful French watercolors. They're kind of pricey, but for the color that you get out of them, I feel like they're worth it. I am going to use hot pink because it's my favorite color. So I'm going to get my brush wet and I'm going to use this. It's called Opera Pink. Opera Rose. I'm just going to put it in here. Very loose, and I like the way that watercolors dry kind of mottled and uneven. I think that's so charming and beautiful. And it's actually very easy to do, but it looks like, you know, you worked really hard at that. All right. Now I could just use another color and go around the outside, but I wanted to show you these mermaid markers by Jane Davenport. These are amazing. They're like markers, but they have a watercolor effect. I'm going to choose yellow, and it's really very simple to achieve a watercolored look. With these mermaid markers. You have to squeeze it a little to get it to come out. I like when they go outside the line a little bit too. All right, and now I lost my go to, what did it say? Give it to God and go to sleep. I lost that because I had a wet card, so I'm just going to use this. How you made me is amazing and wonderful, which is a wonderful verse. Put that on here. I need to trim it a little bit. Okay. All right, it's drying nice. I'd like to add a little interest to it, so I am going to use this stamp that looks like stitching, like a zigzag stitch. I could put it on here and do it that way, but it's just easier for me to do it just like that. I also wanted to show you some super fun rollers. I got these at Hobby Lobby. This one's an X. Oh, it looks like it's drying out. That one doesn't seem to be working very well. Let's try this one. Yeah, this one's fun. This is little daisies. Those are fun to use. You can just use a pen and put, I must have left this open. You can use a pen and put little marks, pretend zigzag marks. But I'm going to use this stamp pad and just add a little interest to my card. My bookmark, I mean, right here. And then I also want to add another, this is just a polka dot stamp. Kind of fun. It's very easy to do, but it makes it look like you put a lot of time and effort into it. Okay, then what I will do is I will take this to my sewing machine and I will sew around the edges. I really like the way that looks. This is how it looks on the back. I don't know, it just kind of gives it another dimension. If I want the words to stick out a little bit better, I can, use like a soft color to kind of highlight it. And then the last thing to do is to just add a ribbon and it will be complete. Use 2 or 3 or 1, whatever you like. Complementary colors. You make a little loop with your thumb and then pull it through. And then tug it. And you got to be careful that you don't rip the card by being too strong. And there you have it. And it'll dry really cute. I see I got a thumb mark on here. I'm just going to go over that again. And it's done. And you have a fun little bookmark to put in your book or your Bible or to give as a gift. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more of my work, my art, you can go to Robin Liefeld Creates on Instagram. If you'd like to buy any of my art, you can go to my Etsy shop at Robin Liefeld Creates. I also have a website, robinliefeld.com. Thanks so much for joining me today. It was a lot of fun, and best wishes for the rest of this online art summit for you to be fearless and messy and magnificent. See you later.